to How Finance Leaders Can Improve Performance Amid Uncertainty, brought to you by the Controllers Council. My name is Neil Brown, Executive Director of the Controllers Council, and let's take a quick look at the agenda. First, we'll have panelist introductions and a quick word about our sponsor, and then we'll get right to our panelist questions and discussions. Of course, we'll have Q&A at the end, audience Q&A. So with that, I'd like to cover some brief housekeeping. First, this Q&A, please use your GoToWebinar control panel to ask questions as early as possible, and we'll get to as many as possible. Next, this webinar is CPE eligible. We'll have 3 polling questions. So please, again, use your GoToWebinar control panel to answer each poll and benchmark your peers if you're not seeking CPE. Please allow up to a week for CPE certificates. Also regarding CPE, there'll be a brief survey directly after this webcast, so please complete. And finally, you'll receive a link to this webcast via email in the next 24 hours, a link to the video archive. So with that, I'd like to introduce our expert panelists. Steve Emberland is VP of Finance at Delphix, a technology company based in Redwood City, California. He has over 30 years of experience, and he's been a controller multiple times. He had a public accounting career at PwC and E&Y, and has an active CPA in California. Ashley Griesshammer is controller at Lovevery, I believe is the pronunciation, correct?
Yes.
In Boise, Idaho. It's an e-commerce company in children's education. And she has both a CPA and a CMA. And education from University of Michigan, Grand Valley State University for a Master's of Accounting, and a Stanford B School certificate. And last but not least, James Blake is controller at Ensoma, a biotech firm in Boston. And he previously was, he's a CPA in Massachusetts and an alum from PwC and CFGI. He earned degrees from Boston College, both a bachelor's and a master of science. Welcome, panelists. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
So now a quick word about our partner and sponsor. Bill is a leader in financial automation software for small and mid-sized businesses. So with that, let's get right to our questions. And I've already mentioned a little bit about your background, but if you could please tell us a little bit more about yourself, your organization, and your accounting finance department. Steve, let's start with you.
Sure, happy to start. Thanks, Neil. Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Steve Emberland. I'm the VP of Finance for Delphix Corp, based in Silicon Valley. In terms of my background, I'm born and raised and live and work in Silicon Valley, so I've been fortunate enough that I get to call Silicon Valley home. And most of my career has been in high-tech companies, mostly in software companies, but I've spent time in manufacturing and hardware, telecommunications. Actually, I had a stint at a wholesale mortgage lender, if you can believe that. I had a tech play. But I'd say at least half my career has been in software, both private companies and public companies. I've had the pleasure to take a couple of companies public as part of my journey. And, I grew up through the accounting ranks, but went much wider with finance. Believe it or not, I was the head of HR for 3 years. I've had FP&A, facilities and global real estate, and office administration. So I've covered a lot of ground over the years. In terms of Delphix, so we're a privately held, kind of later stage software company in the test data management solutions for DevOps. So test data management is, we believe every company is a data company. And so what we do is we help companies manage that data There's a lot of application developers that utilize that data to enhance their software releases. And so what we do is we can, through APIs, we can ingest that data into our engine. We can virtualize that data. And with that, that's kind of the same idea of like a zip file, if that makes sense, where it actually takes a lot less storage, and that saves a ton of money in terms of your storage costs. And there's actually an environmental play in that as well. It's about 90% reduction in costs. And then we can mask that data. So a lot of this data sits in test and staging and development environments, and it's unsecure. So if you think of ransomware and attacks, a lot of these hackers are smart enough to know that the production environment's pretty secure, but the test environments are not. So where we come in is we can secure that data and mask it, where what that means is if the data were to be stolen, the data is not going to be any good for someone who's trying to extort money from the company. So that's a little bit what we do. We're a B2B play, and we cover about a quarter of the Fortune 100 companies, and so we have large enterprise deals. Is a little bit about Delphix. I joined the company a little bit less than a year ago, and in terms of my group, I oversee treasury, taxation, cash management, accounting ops, technical accounting. I've got the revenue team, which includes billing. I've got payroll, stock administration, although that's a third part, we outsource that to a third party. We've got sales incentives, compensation and commissions, and we've got procurement as well. So that's a little bit about me.
That's a lot. That's a lot of responsibilities. Ashley, how about yourself?
Sure, I can go next. So hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Ashley Griesshammer. As Neil mentioned, I'm based in Boise, Idaho. I work for a company called Lovevery. They are a direct-to-consumer subscription e-commerce business. And what we make is basically, I like to describe it as BarkBox for babies. So we're sending stage and developmentally appropriate boxes to babies and toddlers, sending them toys that are appropriate for their development at that time of life. Very cool company. We've grown a ton. I joined about 3 years ago in the beginning of 2020, right when COVID happened. And the company has just grown exponentially over the past 3 years, which has been really exciting to see. As Neil mentioned, I am a licensed CPA, a CMA, and prior to Lovevery, I've really held a lot of those kind of controller, director of finance roles. I worked for a children's retail company out of San Francisco prior to Lovevery, and then prior to that, for a family-owned private equity office that owned various business-to-business distribution and manufacturing companies. So a little bit of background on everything. Currently kind of oversee all of accounting and finance, so overseeing our FP&A function, general ledger accounting, probably a lot of what Steve said too, overseeing tax, internal audits, our equity administration, and payroll as well. So I feel like we all kind of do the same thing in different companies. So thanks everyone for being here today.
All right, thank you, James. How about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Neil. Hi, everybody. My name is James Blake. As Neil mentioned, I'm the controller of Ensoma. We are a research stage gene therapy company. We came out of stealth mode 2 years ago, and we just most recently and excited about it, raised our Series B in December. We are focusing, for anyone in the life sciences space, gene therapy is highly ex vivo right now, so it's performed out of the body, inpatient, long-term chemotherapy based. We're trying to recondition that to do in vivo, so replace all that activity with just one shot. So very ambitious, but we're hopeful that that'll lead to some breakthroughs in medicine down the future. I joined Ensoma in November of 2021, so about a year and a half at this point. Prior to that, as Neil mentioned, the majority of my time was at a accounting advisory firm called CFGI, where I worked on both project-based work, so technical accounting, SPACs, IPOs, things like that, but a majority of my time was spent filling in interim roles for people on parental leave or when a controller or director leaves and they need quick 6-month to 18-month people to plug in and kind of keep the wheels running. At Ensoma, same thing as Steve and Ashley mentioned. My team oversees kind of all those aspects. Our team, though, is just 2 people. It's myself and the VP of Finance, where he oversees FP&A,